minutes. Yeah.
Since we're not meeting
She
yet,
can have this, and I'll be done in a
I
minute.
talked to
I don't have my
Bob
glasses.
The other day,
Oh, for Aaron?
from, about the fire alarm building. John,
Oh, Johnny, okay, there's a lot of Bobs.
he said that, because
all
I
set.
offered to help him with the sign on the. front
Want
of
you
it.
to make it.
To get it, yeah, oh, yeah. I'm gonna pay for the materials.
Plywood in the back of
I'll
the
get it
truck.
made.
We're all set. We're all-
Nah,
They don't have any money.
All right, we're gonna call the meeting to order. 6 o'clock, we're all set with the thing. Are we on?
Yes.
Oh, I don't see our faces, so, okay. Roll call.
Paul St. Armand,
Maureen Buffy, Aaron Brewster. And Sumpico. And the guest is Sandy Lukowitz, and we have a guest speaker, Larry Menier. Okay, before we go into the program, has everybody reviewed the minutes?
yep.
Are there any changes or additions, deletions, anything?
I don't have any,
Corrections?
but I have a question. So I wasn't at the last two meetings. Do I abstain from approving the minutes? That's how it, okay, that's how it works. Okay.
Make a motion to accept the minutes from last month.
I'll second it. All in favor? She's still reading, but she can't vote. All in favor?
I,
Aye. One abstention because she wasn't.
I wasn't here last week.
You were here last night? Oh, so she can't vote either. There's two of them that can't vote. Oh my God, I just- that's right. You were, yeah, okay. But we had a quorum. Yeah, okay, so all in favor? Did I say that? Okay, we're done. We have a program tonight on historic properties, town historic owned properties. And Mr. Menier is here to tell us what he has found. Because apparently you've been looking over all the town properties in the town.
Well,
I know you were at the council meeting, but I didn't see the meeting.
I'll show you. It's
Okay.
complicated.
Oh, God, no,
Yeah.
don't, I hope not too complicated. Okay, so if you want to begin,
Okay. I'm basically where I'm coming from is I've retired just before COVID and have been taking a look at a lot of, well, my goal is to use some of my skills from my career to help the town one way or the other. So let me share my screen here and just show you what my background is. Let's see, I need to turn this slideshow on. So for 56 years, I've been doing computer mapping and data management. Computer mapping is the English term for GIS. Everybody calls it GIS, Geographic Information Systems. And I started doing that in the mid-60s. And so these are just some of the experience I've had doing that kind of thing. I spent 14 years as a grad student in anthropology at the University of Arizona. Did a lot of work for the Park Service, and then came to Rhode Island in '78. Did work for the Boston Big Dig through Public Archaeology Lab, did the Witta pirate ship, excavation off the Cape. That is our automated lab. Did museum work for Arizona State Museum, the Smithsonian, Mystic Seaport, RISD Museum, Half-Riffer, Audubon, Catholic Diocese of the Catholic. This is just a few of the projects. Mostly I did an awful lot of contracts with Rhode Island government. Massachusetts and Rhode Island state GISs, Rhode Island DEM, health planning, landfill, General Assembly, Mass and Rhode Island Historical Preservation. I did redistricting, council redistricting for Providence and Warwick. I did the town GIS for Burrillville. It's a long time ago, back in the 90s. And the Providence Water Supply Board. And in the last 25 years, I've been in the commercial world doing systems for retail site selection. And my last big project was a dealer territory management system for Harley Davidson. So that gives you some idea of at least the variety of things that I've been doing. So my goal is to provide computer mapping. Let's see, do I need to move this? Can you move that out of the way? There we go. Computer mapping and data analysis to the council and town officials to assist with decision-making wherever I can as a volunteer. So during this past summer with COVID, I started taking a look at this stuff and noticed that the survey that was done in 1978, which is now, it's a beginning point, it's out of date, but it's a good start, has 191 historic properties in it, was still in manual form like this. And I said, why not put it into the computer? So I spent a couple of months doing that during the summer. And I want to show you some of the results of that. Okay, so before we do that, is everybody familiar with Rigis.org, the Rhode Island GIS housed at URI? Back in 1985, Bob Bendick, head of DEM, hired me. GIS was just coming into use back then. And Bob Bendick at DEM hired me to do a feasibility study on how we can use GIS in the state. I did a feasibility study. The people at URI picked up on it and established the Rhode Island GIS. Rigis.org is their website, and proceeded to digitize and get into GIS dozens and dozens and dozens of layers or subjects that can be mapped and combined to answer questions and so forth. So that's Rigis. So there's a vast quantity of data at Rigis. It's all downloadable and usable for a variety of things. So I've downloaded quite a bit of their stuff and selected it out for Coventry, so we can look at it in a frame that shows Coventry. So this, however, I met with the head of the Rhode Island, Jeff, what's his name?
Jeff Emity?
Yeah, of
Rhode Island
Rhode Island
Preservation, yeah.
Historical Preservation, and he said, well, as far as he knew, this data was as of the late 90s, that they haven't really updated it. Mostly what these are National Register properties in Coventry, not very many, but you can see what they have labeled. So this is what comes from Rigis. But there's a lot more in the survey. This is just the cover sheet of the survey. Here's a printed copy. And so I went through all 191 entries, and unfortunately, their maps, these maps were done in 78. It was all done by hand, very, very manual, and a lot of the maps were not at all accurate or revealing as to where the parcels, the properties were located. And also there weren't a lot of addresses put with properties. So I had to do a fair amount of field work to track these down. And in the process, I learned quite a bit as well. So as you see, the 10, these are not historic districts, but they officially are historic districts, but they are basically either mill towns or in the case of Rice City, thoroughfares along turnpikes and that kind of thing. And in the case of Green, the railroad, and Hopkins Hollow had a real nice sawmill and so forth down there. So these are kind of groupings where people concentrated. And so this is just an overview map of the 191 points that I put in. About 3 or 4 are either demolished, or a couple of them I just couldn't find. I think they are gone. And one of them I have a question as to whether I identify the right building or not. But anyway, it's good for starting. So here's a close-up of Western Coventry, Rice City, Coventry Center, and so forth. And this is just to label every single point. This is basically a computer reproduction of the very map. I had, the survey said that they have a very large 3x4 foot map that they plotted all this on. And they said they had put one in Town Hall, at DEM and DPW and Rhode Island Historical Preservation. Well, I couldn't find it, and we went back in the vault and just could not find it in Town Hall. So I had to go down to Historic Preservation down on Benefit Street and scan quite a bit of the large maps to be able to produce this, because the small map that's in here didn't have any detail for these districts. So this is the data for Coventry, obviously, Western Coventry. Obviously, these numbers here correspond to the IDs they gave to each significant property that they identified. So here's the same thing. Oh, so one of the coolest things I came across that I thought I'd show a picture of. Everybody recognize this? The toll booth, one of the last remaining toll booths on toll road, former toll road in Rhode Island. This is the one on Plainfield Pike across from Sisson Road. Looks like it could use a little help. But I thought that was pretty cool, because I don't have background in history and so forth. So to me, this is all very novel. So here is the same blow up for Washington, Anthony, and Quidnick. And same thing for Arkwright and Harris. So one of the things we probably want to pursue is how much more should be added to this. This could become the core of an ongoing inventory of significant historic resources in Coventry. And now, I also have the assessor database, which has every parcel in Coventry, along with a year built for everything but about 600 or 700 parcels. So I said, well, let's throw out the ones that we already have in that 191 survey and see what else we have that was built before 1900. 675 buildings are 120 years or older that were not included in that survey. There's probably good candidates for additions. So this is just straight out of the parcel database, and you see an awful lot of early years. So, okay, let's see if hopefully we got the sound up here. This is going to be a time lapse. I hope the sound is up. Where the heck is my mouse? So here. We're going to show the growth of Coventry from the 1700s to the present in 25-year increments. Each dot represents one building of any type for the period based on the tax assessor's indication of the year it was built. The 10 key village centers are outlined on the map. Notice that growth occurs rather uniformly across the town, except during the mid-1800s when the mill villages in the east built a lot of mill houses. So here we go, starting in 1700 for 25 years. We only have about 5 buildings showing. Now we're going to turn on total of 19. Starting in 1725, and then starting in 1750, we're up to 42. Starting in 1775, we're up to 82. Then starting in 1800, we're up to 130. And then 167 starting in 1825.
Really getting a lot here.
Starting in 1850, we're up to 305. You see the mill villages in the east really growing strong.
Right here.
And then starting in 1875, we're up to 778. And you see green getting big over there and Summit with the growth of the railroads. Then in 1900, we're up to 1,105 buildings, and by starting in 1925, we're up to 2,369. Then we add another 4,000 starting in 1950, and starting in 1975, we're double that, 11,563. Then we added another 2,000 starting in 2000 for a total of 13,171.
So that is the current location of every building from the assessor's database in Coventry right now. I know you can't read this, but I'll show you a few interesting things. So this is the same data, a count of buildings by, in this case, decade, 1700. Oops. Is this a touch screen?
Yes, it is.
Can't touch it. 1700, 1720, 1730, down to 2010. And so these are there's like, 60 or 70 different type of building types. But I took the 20 most common building types that are in the assessor's database and counted those up by decade. And we see, obviously, the most popular building types through time have been Cape and Colonial. Another one is what they call conventional, whatever that is. I don't have the definitions of these. I imagine, I'm not sure who puts them in, probably the Northeast Reval group that does the assessments, is my guess. But what's interesting is when the mills started getting built, here's where 2-family mill houses were mostly built in here, especially 1870, 30, 1880, 63, 1890, 35. That's where most of the 2-family mill houses were built. Here's 3-family and 4-family. Again, mill housing right in there. Bungalows, bungalows didn't come in until much later here. And what are these? Contemporary, whatever those are. Ranches obviously came in much later, and raised ranches even later. So this basically is the growth by decade, the number in each decade. So, you know, we can make all of these are designed to be printed on 8.5 by 11 or 8.5 by 14 printout. In fact, here's what they look like as a legal page. So I can prepare any of these on printing that we want them. So a couple of other interesting things. There are 2 layers for cemeteries. One from Regis, which is the black triangles. And apparently they used all kinds of sources
for cemeteries, I assume there must be an awful lot of cemeteries that are on private land that aren't inventoried at all in the assessor database or anything. So the assessor database is the ones that I have circled in blue. So we see that the assessor database is for some reason missing an awful lot of other cemeteries, assuming those are all legitimate. But the Rigis data, by the way, is very well documented as to where they, what the sources were for all of this data. And you can download those, they come down as text, and that can all be looked at. Another interesting one is, this is from Rigis. They've, remember, all the Rigis data is statewide. I have only extracted the stuff for Coventry. So look at the amazing amount of conservation land we have in the town. We're still a very rural town. And as a matter of fact, I've added it up. Oh, here's also this is Rigis data. These are the 60 dams that are in Coventry. And shoot, I failed to get, I had a tabulation, I forgot to get it in here. I added up all the water makes up like 2.5% of Coventry. And then there's like, I'm having to do this from memory, 59, almost 60 square miles of land. And there's several square miles of roads. And most of it is conservation so forth. Anyway, when you add up all the non-residential, non-commercial, non-industrial land, it comes to 45%. Almost half of our town is has no buildings on it. Is recreational, conservation, and so forth. That's probably only similar to maybe Foster, Gloucester, and so forth. But you know, the rest of the Rhode Island is nowhere near as rural, I don't think. Here is, I want to show you something else. This is a driving tour that was somebody put together in '78. Some of you have been around for a long time, probably know who did this, and gave me this, and went on the tour. I don't know if it was back in '78 or not, but anyway, these were the properties they visited. The reason I'm talking about a driving tour is because during COVID, when I moved here from Arizona, I had not seen the kind of mills that you have here. I was really interested in the mills because I'm interested in mechanical kinds of things and so forth. So I said, I want to find, my wife and I during COVID were taking a lot of day trips around the state to get the hell out of the house. And so I said, I'd like to do a mill tour in this area of the tours of the mills on the Patuxent River. Well, I couldn't find one. It just doesn't exist. So I poked around and discovered that the Humanities Council of Rhode Island has a website called Road Tour. Actually, its URL is roadtour.org. And they have, these numbers are the numbers of what they call stories, or little snippets about various places in tours. And then these are aggregated into various tours around the state. And so you can go on to any one of these tours and drive the tour or take it virtually. They come with pictures and descriptions and so forth. So since COVID kind of kept us in house, I spent a couple of months developing my own tour. Oh, here are the statistics. I put them in the wrong place. There's the statistics I was looking for. 47.2% of Coventry is not residential, commercial, or industrial. So I did my own tour, Patuxent River Mills, fires, failures, successes, and survival, and these, this covers 15 mills on the north and south fork of the Patuxent River. This is the Patuxent River watershed, and here's the south fork and north fork. So starting in Pontiac and going. So the reason I'm showing you this is the route of the tour that I developed. And my point is that when you develop a tour, you want to do it to minimize the amount of driving. It's the old traveling salesman problem. If you have 15 places you have to visit, what's the least amount of distance you have to travel? Well, GIS is really good at optimizing these routes. So I took these 15 points and had the GIS compute the optimized route, and this is the route of my tour. So my point of showing you this is if in the long term you want to do, the commission wants to do any tours, we can use GIS to develop good routes. And that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was very interesting.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions for him, for Larry?
Sure. I've done a lot of work with trying to come up with the list of cemeteries that are not, that I didn't find on the town's tax assessor's map. So I actually came up with an Excel spreadsheet, and I have forwarded that to the town manager, who's supposed to be contacting planning and the tax assessor's office to make sure that all those cemeteries are represented on the map.
When you say the map,
The online version, the GIS.
the Rigis version.
Is that the one that the
Because
town uses?
The town has no separate layer. There's not a lot of GIS capability in the town. Is that right?
Yeah, we do have the town's GIS system. There's certain layers like zoning and yeah, there's not too many layers that we currently have on that map. And I believe that we do have some of the cemeteries on there, but certainly not all of them.
Some of them are on there, but
Right.
not all of, but not all of them.
Not most of them, actually.
Not many of them.
Well, I assume what you found would correspond with what Rigis. That Rigis thing looks pretty thorough.
Do you mean the map that the State Cemetery Commission put together, the GIS mapping
I
that they
think
did with URI in the
I
2000?
remember them mentioned as one of the sources.
Yeah,
So
okay.
that must be, yeah.
So they're represented on that map, but on the town's official maps, the tax assessor's maps, that's what I was,
Well, they wouldn't be on, if they're not. If a cemetery, say, is on a piece of private property, that property would be what's in the assessor's map, but it wouldn't necessarily mention the cemetery. As far as I know, there's no reason it would.
they're
because-
supposed to,
Are they?
yeah, by state law.
So you're
That's funny
trying, you're
because-
trying to get them on it? The ones
Yeah.
that you found and
Yeah,
stuff?
represented
Because
on
I've
it.
looked very closely at the assessor file and I haven't seen any indication that would be worth pursuing.
Yeah,
Larry, do you have any cemeteries listed for Town Farm Road?
We could look it up. I can't at this very moment.
Yeah,
but,
that's okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'd be interested. I know there's one that
The Poor
I'd
Farm-
like Maureen and I to check out.
the Poor Farm Cemetery.
actually,
There's another one. The Poor Farm Cemeteries on Old Poor Farm Road.
No, Town Farm Road.
if
Okay,
if we
so
could,
what-
if we can go back and look at that cemetery map, we can probably take a quick look.
Yeah.
you can
Share
also,
again and, yeah.
The Salisbury Cemetery is on Town Farm Road. Salisbury Cemeteries, Town Farm Road.
There's what?
Salisbury Cemetery.
Right next
Salisbury.
to,
Town Farm
right
Road.
next to
Near where they're gonna
St.
build-
Jean's.
Where they're gonna build
property.
those houses.
Yeah, that's what,
Yeah,
that's
it's
what
Salisbury.
Maureen and I had to
Yeah.
go check out.
Yeah.
This was brought up last night.
Yeah, it is there, because I know it's
So
still
Town
being
Farm
used.
is somewhere right over in here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
So there's 4 there.
Actually,
So-
so, yeah, we're on the wrong side of the pond, so here's Johnson's Pond.
oh,
So I
yeah, be on
believe
the
Town
other side.
Farm is
Yeah,
over
it's
here.
there.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay, right.
yeah.
So maybe you can have him
2,
put it
3.
on to the.
Yeah.
the one that- yeah,
If he wants to. So if you go to this website, and you don't have to do it right this second, but if you look on this website and you go to search database, there's a search statewide cemeteries,
I've seen
and
that.
all of the pinpoints that are on there were taken with the GIS
I'm sure.
reading
there-
during the like 2010 and later,
well,
around
they
that
must-
time.
They must be the same as these righteous points.
Yeah,
but-
because the project that we worked on was with, I don't know, I can't remember his last name from URI. Greg was his first name.
Oh, yeah.
Anyways, so he was coordinating that project statewide,
Hmm.
and a lot of volunteers went around collecting the coordinates for the mapping. So that is on that website.
I can.
If you want to
yeah,
keep that and look,
I've
if you want to
been-
keep that and look at that
I've
later.
been to that. I can send you the documentation they have on their source, and that'll tell us right away if which of those sources are
Yeah.
in there.
Yep.
So I can send you, as a matter of fact, I forgot to do this. Let me give each of you my card. And if you think of a map you need or of analysis you need, oops, whatever, email me or call me.
Can I have that card? I'm going to put a good email
And
contact
I'll
on
knock
there.
out a map for you, just about anything that I have data for or data we can get.
so all this that you've showed us tonight is on that website, the Regis website.
Rigis.org.
All of this is
Right.
Regis.
Yeah, that.
Rigis.
Well, the black triangles
Yeah.
is,
But I mean, even of all the historic houses in town, that all that's on that website.
the first map I showed you is this is all they have. Right here. This is all Rigis has,
So all that other is your work.
right,
Okay.
is this survey,
Okay.
this survey here.
Okay.
If there's another source that I don't know about, I'd like to know.
No, but
about it.
you know, a lot of them that are not in that book, you had on the map of the historic houses, or when you broke them down by years.
Before 1900, that's all from the
Right.
assessor database.
Yeah, that's not in there.
Right,
yeah.
right. That's
Those are
why I
all-
showed,
Yep.
that's
those
why
are all your
I
maps.
showed all of these.
Yep.
Would you be willing to share your presentation? Forward it to the.
Sure. I could send you this PowerPoint. So all these this is year belt from the assessor file, all the ones 1900 or before that are not in this survey.
Right.
I actually tested it geographically
Mm.
because every one of those points I can match to a parcel
Mm-hmm.
and figure out which ones to throw out. So these are the 675 of these are good candidates for
Mhm.
adding to a townwide historic resources fund.
That's important to us because I knew a lot of those houses are not in there.
Yeah,
Just from knowing the town. And some are missing out of that too now. But
Yeah.
it would be nice to be able to know what's out there, where we've talked about doing a plaque program. This way we could target the properties if we know where they are. To do a house plaque program. And maybe people would want to have their house listed on the National Registry if they're interested to.
I was actually on Plainfield Pike in Rice City trying to find the Maguire Tavern remains. And there was a woman working on her lawn in her front yard, and I met her, Mrs. Lavoy.
Mhm.
And she said, I'm a member of the First Christian Church in Rice City, and we have been dying to have a plaque on our church.
There you
That's
go.
right, we're, after the holidays, we've kind of tabled it till after the holidays to come up with a plaque program, and we've looked at other communities that have them.
So your map that you're showing us here, you have all the addresses and everything of those properties that you've
That's
listed in a
Straight out of the
database.
assessor
Okay.
database. I mean,
Right,
they're
right,
paying,
which would
they're paying
be,
taxes.
yeah,
Yeah,
be extremely helpful in that regard, with the plaque program.
To target them individually.
what we ought to do, it sounds to me like, is jive these maps with what is planning where the most likely place where there is a GIS layer of historic properties.
I believe that there is, yeah, because the GIS system, it's all online, but behind the scenes, I believe that we do have the shape files.
Yeah, but the GI, if you, by GIS system, are you referring to this, what's it, CAI? When you go on to the quote town GIS,
Yes.
that's done by CAI.
Cody,
And,
Cody, can you help us out?
oh, yeah.
Yes, it is CAI. The GIS system on the town website is all the information generated from CAI, and I sent to Larry the shape files for all of that.
But that doesn't include any historic, separate historic layers, does it?
I don't know what layers are in it, but we can certainly check.
Yeah, well, that's something I can work with you all planning and IT and we'll get that resolved because, we don't want data of this nature to end up in a volunteer's computer. We want it in town.
Mhm.
So we want to work, one thing I should mention is the Conservation Commission just Monday night appointed Lynn Carlson to the commission. She has a vast quantity of GIS experience. She is a super expert. She used to work at DEM back when I just started. I've known her since '86. And she's terrific. And she just retired. And she is doing a little on the side of contract work and so forth. But Anne has talked about she and I kind of partnering on some of these efforts. So she can help us a lot. She can do a number of things with GIS that I can't. She's a little more modern in a lot of ways and uses different software. I use one kind of software, she
Beyond my
uses another kind of
Technical
software.
experience.
That's good. Because like I say, I know these houses are out there and they're not looked at as historic.
Yeah. What I could do, if it would be helpful, notice some of these dates go back into the 1700s. I could make a list of these 675 by year built
Yeah.
with
that
the
would be great. Yeah,
addresses
that would help.
and maybe some other key. There's 150 variables or so in the assessor database. So it's a vast quantity of data, a lot of which is not very relevant. But I could list the useful things like buildings, square footage and things like that. And make a list or spreadsheet, if you'd rather have a spreadsheet and send that.
Yeah,
to
that would be
you.
great. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that would be great.
And make that.
Larry, do you have a list of all of the town-owned historic buildings?
Historic properties.
I just, for the council Monday night, I've been helping them look at town-owned properties. And identified there's
23.
123,
Mm.
but very few buildings, just teen center. Then, of course, they just sold the Anthony School
Mhm.
and Reed Schoolhouse. And I think that's.
Mapledale.
There's one other that I mentioned.
Mapledale,
Well, that's.
Yeah,
Anthony
he said
School.
that just got
School.
sold.
Yeah,
The teen center doesn't belong to the town. Teen center belongs to the athletic association.
Well, I just went and got the deed from the athletic association to the town. It says, as long as it continues to be used for recreation, it will remain with the town, but it will revert back if not. However, I understand the athletic association no longer exists. Is that right?
Nobody knows where to find them.
It's at URI. It's at
Huh?
URI. It's at URI. There's a scholarship. The money was put at URI. So I told Ed Wazika that anyway, I don't know how the
There would
legalities
have
of
to
all
be a
that.
quit claim or something like that to
I don't know
revert
that,
it
yeah,
back.
I don't know the legalities, but in order to resolve it, you would have to, I think, talk to URI. All that money and everything went to URI.
Well, I just looked at the property yesterday. It's a beautiful little property.
It is.
Without very much parking, but
There's no
it is
parking. That's the
slowly
problem.
getting deteriorated and really needs some help.
Needs a lot of work.
Yeah,
It's
We
got
looked
three,
at it.
it's got 3 or 4 interesting video games in there, by the way.
Yeah.
Mm.
Pac-Man and a few other things.
Yeah. Any other questions? If we can have access to your information, that would be terrific. It'd save us a lot of time trying to do that.
Are rather than a PowerPoint, would it be better for me to send you PDFs of all of these maps so you can
I think
display
so,
them and
yeah.
print them individually?
Yeah, that would be
PowerPoint's
great.
kind of a pain to,
yeah. No,
plus
that
you may
would,
not have PowerPoint on your system and so forth.
no, that
so
would be, that
I
would
can
be,
send you PDFs of all of
yeah,
them.
great, because it'll help us plot and.
It's
plan.
my card, Larry, too, so you know.
Are your emails all on the town website?
All right. No, just our names.
Yeah.
I live in one of those old houses that you'll find on there.
So what I'll do is
1858.
I'll email you from my town email.
Oh,
And then
great,
you can send everything to me and I'll forward it to all the members.
Oh, cool.
That's probably the easiest way to do it.
great, okay.
I have a question that I'm not sure. I think I heard what I said. So all of the work you've done is now being
Don't be the
given to the
first one
planning
you can dig
commission
for a
and the
plaque.
actual GIS website will be
Yeah.
updated with this information? Like, is that how this, how
I,
do we get all of this work he's done
That's a good
into the
question.
official GIS system?
would Cody there, Cody, do you think if we gave additional layers to CAI, they would add them to what's online?
I would assume so. It's not something I've ever been involved in, but I would imagine they'd add whatever we wanted them to add. It's our data.
There are a number of other layers other than the assessor file on there. So that would be worth asking. If not, we'll have to have another alternative.
So I never even thought that we would be able to make maps like this. What other ideas do you have in your head? For maps that we would want to make?
The sky is the limit. The software is so flexible. I mean, you can literally, any question you can think up, that the data is there for, we can produce tabulations or maps. For
I wasn't aware of this website, so I'm gonna ask a weird question. The one that you have where it has all the, you have it zoomed in on the Western Coventry and you have a call out to each point.
Yeah,
Is it possible that when you click that call out, it would open up like a picture of the actual building? I'm just getting crazy now.
that would be wonderful. We'd have to,
I mean,
well,
we'd have to take the pictures, but could you
well,
attach and edit to the clip?
actually, you're familiar with Google Maps.
Yeah.
Virtually all of these are visible, well, most of them are available on Google Maps. There are so many trees in this town, that sometimes you go to the
Makes
thing
it
and you
hard.
can't even see the top of the house. There's
Yeah.
doggone many trees. But I used Google Maps to use Street View, where you click on the street and then you've got a front view of the house to help identify a lot of these that I couldn't identify any other way. They'd say, oh, it's, it's got a metal chimney with an L. Well, doing the Street View, I could really tell, oh yeah, that is the house. So
that's the way I had to pin down like a third or a fourth of them was that way. So Lynn especially could put together a website that would do that very thing. To actually, it would take you to that place on, you can actually call Google Maps and bring up an image and so forth. But if we wanted to do it right, we'd go around and shoot decent pictures of these things and put them on a website for display. That'd be really cool. See this section.
Another idea that's popped in my head. In here, they have like old photos. Maybe it's not this version. They have old, yeah, right? So like old photos. So we could get really crazy. And not only click it and see what it looks like today, but if we could find old photos and scan them in, you can see here's what it looked like in the
I've done
50s,
an
here's what it
awful
looked
lot
like
of
in
that.
the,
Yeah, he's got
You
a
know
lot
what I
of old
mean?
photos and.
Oh, I
mean,
probably have at least 200 of Coventry alone.
Have you been following Larry DiPetrillo's pictures on Facebook?
Yeah.
Pictures Larry likes, as he calls it. I mean, he must have a ton of photos, even in Coventry.
I have a lot just from what I inherited from my grandfather's collection and stuff.
Wow.
So, but I have a lot of Situate, Coventry that were from him, and ones he collected, and others that I've just taken off of Facebook when a lot of the historical ones are on there. So to add to the group so that I can have them for us.
There's
For the
plenty of them.
Coventry
Yeah, we
stuff,
have a
so
lot
yeah.
between the historical society.
And I've scanned a lot of them. I've got apps that I put on my phone to take old slides that my grandfather had and take pictures of, and things that he had photographed with a slide camera back in the 1960s and 70s and stuff, old pictures, and done a lot of that. I've spent a lot of time on it. So, so they're all digitized, so it's easy to, add to.
Yeah.
But like Plainfield Pike, which was the first turnpike in Rhode Island. That was called Plainfield Turnpike originally, but it was the first turnpike in Rhode Island. Because I was just involved in a thing in Situate with the Potter family home, which was the Potter Inn that was right over the line from Coventry on Plainfield Pike. So I learned an awful lot about Plainfield Pike that day at that seminar. But
this kind of website would be really awesome. Would probably take, I'm not sure it would end up being appropriate for CAI because there are limitations to the contract, I'm sure, with CAI from the town as to how much they could afford to put up before they'd want more money.
Probably, yeah.
So a website like that would be really cool if you could have, explore Coventry history website.
Right, it would be, it's a good idea, and take pictures of the houses now, you have before and after.
Yeah, if you could get some grant money or something to really fund that kind of effort, that would be spectacular, because we've got the beginnings of quite a bit of the data, which need to pull it all together and have the technology to do it. That's something that
I'll send you,
would be very helpful in doing.
I'll send you a few things I have that might be of interest historically speaking on Coventry maps, because my grandfather did Coventry maps, the earliest one, 1940. So there's a lot of old, even Revolutionary War info on it and stuff like that. Have you seen the George Madison maps?
No.
No, okay, I'll send you, because I've digitized them all.
Wow.
I inherited them all over time from my mother, my aunt, my uncle. So I have digitized 32 of his maps, because he did, just of Coventry, he did 4 at different times, but their early ones have the really interesting historical notes on them, and they have notes of structures that were there or stories about them. So it adds a little.
Sanborn maps, sort of, or more.
Hand drawn, they're really folk arty type of maps. Wait till you see it.
It's the coolest.
So, but they have an interesting historical info on them that could be added for what we're talking about here tonight, which is an interesting map that kind of documents the historic structures and other things like that. And, add to it, so. But I'll send Larry a couple of the oldest ones and he can take and have some fun with that.
I wonder if there are other towns in the US that are way ahead of us in some of this kind of concept that we might look at and see how they did it and so forth. Has anybody had any experience with other similar sites elsewhere? I don't know of any in Rhode Island.
I was doing some digging around, but I don't remember seeing any maps like this that you've created. These are really interesting.
You'd have to look at, I mean, in towns in Rhode Island, it might, East Greenwich, Narragansett, and Newport. Because of that, and only because of what I do as an architect and having to deal with historic commissions and stuff like that sometimes, and designing something that's going in one. And East Greenwich, I was on their website just to try and find, because they have their own historic commission. Looking at it, they don't have too much, but I was trying to find information on an old mill that existed on one of my customers' properties way back when, in like probably 1790, but I couldn't find anything in the maps. But I did find an interesting map from 1690s or earlier of all of the land grants for it. So I mean, they do, some of the towns have done some, but Narragansett's pretty organized with some of their stuff, but I don't know,
What this town really needs is a full-time GIS professional. South Kingstown, for example, has had one ever since Rogers was created.
Sounds like you need to come out of retirement.
No way, Jose. When I hit 80, I retired and that's it. No more.
Just kidding.
Okay, over time, I'm sure we will reach out to you because you've got our wheels turning.
Good,
Mhm.
good.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you. And
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
thank you for your
Yeah.
time to organize all of this because
Thank you.
I'm sure it took you a while to do.
Well,
None of us have that ability to do
Yeah.
that.
much appreciated. Yes.
Anything, we need some direction, a plan to.
Well, that's it. And it's,
Where to go
yeah,
and to integrate it well with town, especially planning. That's really important. So,
very good.
great. Shall I depart?
You can stay if you want. You can go if you want.
Anyway, I'm sure my wife would appreciate it if I get home.
If you go home. We put new business first for Larry, so you
Yep.
could talk before we get into our usual agenda. The old business, I only put two things on because the rest will wait till after Christmas.
Yep.
Reed School is back on the agenda. I was driving by it one night.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
Thank you, Larry.
And it is, the electricity is off. The town hasn't turned it back on and the school sits in the dark. Now there's spotlights outside and usually it's lit. I'm just thinking that while it's in the dark, it's prime
Yeah.
vandalism property. I had sent an email to the town manager which he did not respond. I told them at the time, when the electricity was turned off, the society stopped paying for the electricity. I brought the final bill to them. The society paid the final bill. I just brought the information over so they could turn the lights back on, both the Reed School and Summit Library. Summit now is another story, but the concern is because we are now the stewards of Reed School, we would like to request that the lights be turned back on. Now, I was told by the town manager to turn it over to the town. Well, they haven't done anything about it.
I would email Kevin.
I thought he said he doesn't want to pay it, which he wouldn't pay it anyway.
Well, but if you send it in an email
I think I'll send it.
and CC, then
I'll send it to everybody.
documentation.
Everybody I know.
So
Hope. I'm gonna
Is,
send it to
is the
everybody.
reason that the electricity is off is just because they're trying to save that little amount of money? for
I
the
just
No,
think
because I
electricity?
refuse to pay it
No,
anymore.
the society, when they made the decision for us to be the stewards of the school,
Mhm.
and I met with Ann Dixon and Ben Marchant, and Ben said the town should be paying for it, not the societies, which is all well and good. Okay, it's not a huge amount.
Fine with me.
It's not a huge amount of money. That's not the issue. So the society moved everything out, like we talked about at the last meeting. And the electricity, they are no longer paying they shut off the electricity. I mean, they called the National Grid and said, we're not here anymore. And I brought all the information to the town. Well, to finance. I was told to bring it to finance, so I brought it to finance. Well, the school sits in darkness at night, which that bothers me, because they don't have the protection on the windows yet, which the society was willing to do at that point in time. Right now, to me, it's a target for vandalism. Now, they wanted us to be the stewards, so we're the stewards. What do you want to do?
So as a steward, you should recommend that they get the electricity put on.
But I want to talk to all of you about that before I.
What he said. I said what he said.
What he said, okay. So I'm gonna send an email out to,
And you can voice, I mean, you should voice your concern that it obviously it makes it a
a
good
target.
opportunity for someone to vandalize the property with it like
Mm-hmm.
that, you know, so.
Yeah, so, you know, I don't want to do anything. I just want to talk this with you to see what you guys all think. So I'll send out an email to everyone and say our concerns about vandalism. Okay?
Okay.
We don't need to vote on that. We just, yeah.
Yeah.
And then I put the Mapledale School on here, or Anthony School, whatever, same building. Because I had gotten an email from Ann Dixon last few days back saying that it was coming up on the town agenda to be sold. And because there has been complaints from people that the town doesn't take care of their buildings or whatever. Pretty much what she said, if you want to go in there and salvage anything, do it now or forever hold your peace. That's not how she worded it, but that's how I took it. Well, I said, well, I sent her an email. You know, we would like to go in to see if that window is still in place. It may be gone, you know, the round thing, or maybe we talked about blackboards or whatever. Well, Monday it was sold apparently. So no, it's like, they
Yeah.
gave us like 3 days.
But
4
that's
days.
okay. I'm going to get a hold of your father.
No, but that's beside the point. That's beside the point. I mean, we can, to whoever owns it, we can approach and whatever.
John
Before
owns
they-
it
But
now.
yeah, but
Check.
that's beside the point. My point is there.
His father.
Yeah. My point
Oh,
is
you can beat him
now,
up then.
you know, come forward, say what you want to do. Okay, the gesture is there, but it's like cut them off at the legs because we didn't have time to get together and go in there and look. So now it's been sold, which, you know, I'm not saying it shouldn't be sold. That's not my issue. If you're gonna say, do you have something you want to preserve or whatever, you give us time.
How do we, I guess, how do we get a step in the formal process that the town has? Right, because I assume the town has a process for how they sell things. We just need an extra line in there that says, if it's over this many years old, we get X number of, we get whatever time to respond.
Sandy and I have been
beforehand.
in it, I think Paul, but that was 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean,
So-
like, how, it's gonna keep, it's gonna keep getting missed until it's part of the process. So how do we just get one extra line added
Which
to the
we have
process?
to, after the holidays, we're gonna focus on that because we're not part of the process. We haven't been part of the process. And now it's just a like, I see it as humoring us at this stage of the game because we complained about Byron Reed, which was privately owned, but then the town owned it and we weren't allowed to go in then. In there again, it was a short window of time, but there was enough time there from the time the town took possession to the time it came down for us to go in. Now, the man behind it said, oh, I would have let you in, but yeah, I don't want to do it that way.
Yeah, it should be
I don't
part of the
wanna do it
formal
that-
process.
We
just
have
to figure out
keys
how
to
to add a line to it.
the building.
I don't know where the key, you're talking about the school.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know where the key is. I thought I gave it back to you.
no. But,
But it's a
I mean,
padlock. It's not a big deal, but it's.
because it's John and we know John, to me, it's not an issue. I'll just
But that's
call.
beside the
And it's my
point.
understanding, there's been no formal closing or anything.
No,
The-
there
the
hasn't been
town
a
still
closing.
owns it.
But
They-
that's,
they
but
held a
that's
vote to
beside the
sell.
point. It's like not giving us the
Right.
time. It's like an afterthought.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? And,
Right.
and, you know, and I have no pressure, you know, if
They're
it's
not gonna,
sold, then
they're not gonna change the way they do things.
well, I'm going to become annoying. then.
Mm. But that's what I'm saying.
That's-
Just,
you
you
have
know,
to deal with it. and you have to-
bypass, and
But-
just go right to the
But what
source.
if it was somebody that bought it that doesn't care?
But that's not that's not the issue.
It's not the issue because we're not part of the process.
Right, well-
That's my issue.
Yeah, but
They can sell
that's,
anything they want.
Hmm.
But don't pretend we're part of the process when we really aren't.
Mhm.
Do you know
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
do understand.
We shouldn't have to go after it's sold
Mhm.
and try to work with an owner.
But until you can change
Well, we're gonna
their
do that
way
after the
of doing
holidays.
things,
We're gonna change after the holidays. To me, that was just to humor us, and I don't like being humored or jerked around.
no, I don't think it was to humor us.
No,
I mean, you mean
that
Maple
last
Dale?
minute, that last minute, no, I'm not talking about them
Oh,
selling it.
what are
I'm
you
not
talking
talking
about?
about that. I'm not talking about them selling it. I'm talking about saying, if you want to go in and salvage anything, we're going to sell it. Okay, that's all well and good, but then they sell it. There was no time. We weren't part of the consideration in the time.
We never will be.
I'm not so sure.
Well,
Well,
you
I
have
mean-
to, you have to impose your will
yeah,
slowly but
yes,
surely.
exactly.
So
I mean,
And
that's
that
my,
takes time. And then you got, you
That's
know, you
fine.
have to establish
That's fine.
that you
right.
deserve that respect.
we're not important enough.
That's right.
No,
We
I
have
know
to
we're
make
not. We're not
ourselves
here
part
to
of
have
what.
particular people right here soon after the holidays, so we
Yeah.
can really look each other in the eye
Oh,
and
yeah,
say,
we
look, we're
have to
kind of
decide-
concerned about this.
Yeah, because, you know, I'm gonna tell you, when this commission, when 8 years ago, when we were trying to do Reed, the school, Byron Reed 10 years ago, there was no commission then.
In Mapledale,
So there was no commission at that time. The commission came afterwards. And after it was formed, I was told by a council member at that point in time that the town manager at that point in time only did it to shut us up and that we would never have any say. Well, it's 10 years, well, it's not 10 years, but, you know, we have to force the issue to have some say.
Mhm.
Even if they ignore us, I want to have some say.
oh, I think you should go to the next town council meeting. Get on the agenda.
I'm not, when is the next one? It's in January, right? There are no
No.
more this, oh, I'm not doing that before Christmas. This in December,
You
January.
don't have much time left.
No,
yet, so-
January.
But that's what you have to do. You have
But
to
it's-
make it a public issue.
And, you know, I don't like it when they pretend, oh, yes, we care, but we're not gonna let you do anything. We're just gonna humor you. I wanna be humored. You either wanna do it or you don't. That's my thing. You either wanna do it or you don't. But as far as, you know, I don't have a problem with it being sold. I don't have a problem who bought it. That's not my problem. Just don't throw it as a last, give us time. Give us.
Oh, I had no
I mean,
idea
I
that
didn't even
Ann
have
gave you so much.
I didn't even
So-
have time to talk to you people about it. To talk to the commission about it. This was Thursday,
You talked to her Thursday?
was an email. I
yeah.
contacted Paul and said, do you think you
Yeah.
can go in with me? I don't remember what it was like 8 years ago to see if there's something worth salvaging. Well, we haven't been able to work out a time. And we said, well, how about Monday? But that didn't happen. Because he's the one that knows about buildings. I don't.
Hmm.
And, you know, then next thing I know, it's on the agenda and it's being sold and what the,
That was all within
That's-
I
5 days.
remember the inside like it was yesterday.
yeah, but we don't know how bad it is now.
Oh, it's
been-
worse.
It's 8 years ago.
Yeah. it's
So-
worse.
That's my,
I told her that if she went in there, Ann, I told her, I said, if you go in there, I said, be very careful. It's dangerous.
well, yeah, it was to 8 years
And then all
ago.
of a sudden she saw, she's
No, but
selling
the
it.
point is, there was no time. to even talk. It's not up to me to decide about it. It's up to us to decide the approach. Or if we want to or not. But I mean, our meeting was this week. Boom, bing, bang, boom, it's done. I knew they were talking about selling it. I don't have a problem that they sold it. Something needs to be done about it, but we weren't part of the process until last minute.
Well, that's when, like I said, you have to go to a
Listen.
town council meeting, even if it's on public speaking.
So I'm not doing that this month. I'll do it next month. And you guys are all expected to.
I'll go.
You
Okay, yeah.
can't,
So
don't,
that's all
you know, do it as soon as you can.
That's all I have. I mean, I didn't put on, I know Aaron was been looking into grants, but we'll get back on that in January. Because we're not going to do anything this month anyway.
Correct.
Well, it's not on the agenda, so we can't talk about it.
Yep.
Okay, so it'll be on the agenda in January. And we'll talk about the pink granite like we always do. And whatever else. But no, I only put, because I knew he was coming, and I only put these two things on, and we
Yeah.
can't talk about something that's not on the agenda.
Having him come and speak was a very positive thing.
Yeah, I
because
really had
think
no
it can
idea what he was going to.
Assist in getting more people interested in the history of their town, if they
Yeah.
have. I
And
mean,
it'll be easy.
there are actually a lot of people that are interested in stuff, but you know, you just.
They
you
don't
gotta-
volunteer.
Right, but you gotta pique their interest with things too, like what he's offering as something that they can do online or look at stuff to learn things is really, I think is excellent.
Yeah.
And needs to be encouraged and
So
give him any help that he asks for, you know, informationally or whatever we can do to let him assist in setting up something that people can go online for their historical information on houses and buildings and things that were here in the past, even things that are gone, that we have pictures of, and like the mill that existed where your house was over there,
Yeah.
you know, things like that. A lot of people, what I was showing, and I'm only using an example, I was showing a nephew who is like 20 some years old, pictures, some of the stuff I had, and he got all excited about it. Said, "Oh, I got to come over to your house and look at those. I'm really interested in that." You know, he lives in Coventry and grew up in Coventry, went to Coventry High School and that. So, you know, there are those that have a natural interest in it, but you know, the type of thing that he's talking about doing, where you actually have a map and you can go click on it and have pictures of
Yeah, he's
that.
been working
I
on
think,
this for
I
a
mean, would
while.
get a lot of people interested in that type of thing. So anyway, I'm pleasantly surprised by what Larry showed us.
Yes.
now, before we leave, if anybody ever wants something on the agenda, you can tell me. I'm not the only person
Okay.
that can do the agenda. I mean,
I didn't
just
know
tell
that.
me. I didn't want you to know.
It's on a need to know basis, and you didn't need to know.
So, you know, like I say, I only put these two things on because I didn't know how long he was gonna talk, and it's holidays and everybody's busy, but anyway, so
So, is
are
that
we
it?
ready to adjourn?
Yep.
The only thing we have
Oh.
left is public comment. There's nobody
Oh,
on
I'm sorry,
here.
public comment.
So
Sandy, you're supposed to be on public comment.
For what?
Just where you.
Well, you're
put the
usually
last-
on there, you're
Yes,
usually in
no,
there.
yeah.
You're a voice in
No,
that screen.
No, the Sandy, is any, nobody's in?
nobody's on here, so if
Okay.
that's it.
Okay,
Okay, very good. Motion,
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
A second?
in favor,
Hi.
opposed?
Cody, are you still on?
Nope, he's gone.
He's gone.
So thank